I think by now most people have heard of Daily Wire, or at the very least, you know who Ben Shapiro is. From his debates with high school students to his memeable, high-pitched voice, Benny has made himself quite an infamous figure in the culture. In 2021, the company he works for, Daily Wire, dipped its toes into film production with the release of Run, Hide, Fight. The company wanted to build up a repertoire of films and shows that would challenge the mainstream entertainment machine, which was deemed by many on the political right as too woke for its own good. Love or hate the Daily Wire, it definitely has the resources and influence to spearhead such an endeavor, though some of their talking heads continue to demonstrate cultural illiteracy with boomer takes like this.
And so I do worry about that with pornography, of course, and I worry about that with gratuitous violence in films and in shows.
This is Grand Theft Auto, correct? Oh, sorry about that. Oh, my goodness. Nobody behind you still hit the turn signal? Because it's all about forming those good habits.
Matt Reeves, who's credited as both a director and a writer on the film, he does not like Batman, and I can't get over this. How do you give $150 million to a dude to make a movie about Batman when he clearly does not like Batman? When he thinks that Batman is bad?
I don't like this game. I don't approve of it. I don't like it. I really think it conditions. There's a certain moral conditioning that happens in games like this. I don't know who the bad guys are, so I just have to shoot everyone, it feels like.
You're the bad guy.
And then the biggest retcon of all, the one that actually matters, and that answers why Rey is cool. Right? It answers the biggest question. Why is Rey even a thing? And the answer is because she's Palpatine's granddaughter, which is fantastic. Okay, that's a great reveal.
It's moral desensitization.
I feel sick to my stomach, but I kind of enjoyed it.
He's full of shit!
Anyway, after Run, Hide, Fight, it would take over a year for the company to put out another movie, kicking off their 2022 slate. So today I'd like to look over the films that Daily Wire has released to determine if they're making the right steps to challenge the Hollywood machine, or if they're circling the same drain of mediocrity of the very industry they criticize. Now, given that this is a controversial topic, bias is automatically going to be assumed regardless of where my take on these movies ends up. So I'll be upfront about where I'm coming from, so any claims of bias can be rightly applied. So I'm a right-winger, who also doesn't like Ben Shapiro.
Now you don't know what the hell to do, do you?
In my eyes, Daily Wire is a neocon organization that pretends to be fighting for its constituents, but it sells out to federal and foreign interests to keep itself on platforms that will earn money. That's not to say there aren't any Daily Wire personalities I like, I'm just not overly fond of the company, and more specifically old Benny Boy. And to be clear, I realize Ben Shapiro doesn't own Daily Wire or has any creative input in the movies it makes, so my dislike for a talking head isn't going to transfer over to the movies that another division of the company makes. If you hate a movie because an employee of the production company is a bad person, be prepared to hate literally any movie from a production company that employed Woody Allen, Kevin Spacey, Bryan Singer, etc. Don't even get near a movie produced by Miramax, good heavens. In fact, you might be best in just assuming every movie's bad because, let's be honest, most Hollywood people are terrible human beings. The point is, I have no allegiances here. I'm going to try to approach these movies as objectively as possible. So for tonight's entertainment, I'm going to present you with this question. Is Daily Wire making good movies?
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up and...
Run, Hide, Fight was Daily Wire's first foray into filmmaking, first debuting at Venice Film Festival on September 10th, 2020, before going to Daily Wire Plus on January 14th the next year. It follows a girl trying to save her fellow students during a school shooting, and, well, yeah, it's not great. The comparison's been made before, but it's basically Die Hard but during a school shooting, which could make for an interesting movie if handled carefully. And I must stress that, if handled carefully. School shootings are a very touchy issue that has to be depicted with the utmost realism and care, or operate in such a farcical absurdity that it can be conscientiously divorced from the real-world situation. The problem with this movie is that it really wants to take this subject matter seriously, exploring why school shootings happen and what motivates these kids to do such horrible things, yet it packages this exploration in such an absurd way. To start out with, the main antagonist in this movie is so caricaturely evil, and I don't care that that's not a real word. I'm gonna use it. He is caricaturely evil. This is the first thing the man says when barreling a van through the cafeteria wall and shooting some of his fellow classmates.
Trigger warning.
He has developed a multi-tiered plan to send a message to society. He starts a school shooting, then begins live streaming it before self-reporting to the school's front office to ensure the police arrive. He also has a van rigged to blow up and has a secret cache of essentials just in case the plan goes south. it's not really clear what the point of all this is. At one point it said that he wanted a reckoning against his classmate, but then he's ranting to the sheriff about how all the media sensationalization of school shootings created him. Ironically enough, this movie also sensationalizes the very same thing. Tristan also reminds me too much of Heath Ledger's Joker and a little bit of Billy and Stu from Scream, who is not really what you want your antagonist in a serious school shooting thriller to be emulating. What makes this worse is that we have a pretty solid scene that actually tries to take one of the shooters seriously. Discount Woody Fink unloads all of his pin-up anger from being bullied to the protagonist and how Joker Jr. took advantage of that pain and turned him into a monster. It's a pretty sobering look at the cycles of violence our kids face in the modern world, but contrasting this with young Patrick Bateman's supervillain antics makes this movie's tone bounce all over the place like a ping pong ball. I also have a question. How is it that nobody hears these gunshots when this thing begins? A van crashes through the cafeteria wall and a gang of kids starts shooting people and the other classes are going on like they heard nothing. Even the main character can't hear it in the bathroom over an air dryer. Okay, I'll grant that those things can be pretty loud, but what's this guy's excuse? AirPods are not really good at canceling out that much outside noise. I'm sorry to break it to you. Oh, and what makes this even worse is that later in the movie, the antagonist is in one of these classrooms and hears the frickin' gunshots in the cafeteria. And yet somehow everyone else is deaf. So it becomes the plot to help these students escape when in reality they should have heard these gunshots in the first place and escaped before Tristan enacted phase 2 of his plan, and the protagonist focuses solely on stopping him. No, her first instinct was to run away until she realized that the rest of the students were still in class, motivating her to go back inside. So actually this movie would have gone down completely differently if not happening at all if people used their freaking ears. On a more positive note, the main protagonist is fine. She's a girl dealing with the loss of her mother and trying to process it while her classmates are dying around her. She's competent enough to deal with the shooters, but still struggles against them a little bit. Her friend is set up to be a pretty likable dude who has an unrequited love for her, but then the movie just assigns him the role of cameraman and forgets about him until it's time for the protagonist to rescue him and the big kiss. Both characters have promise, but neither really get fleshed out enough for me to care about them. Also, Thomas Jane is here. He's fine, I guess. He shoots a schizophrenic kid. That's his contribution to the... Thomas Jane, yeah, he's fine. He shoots a schizo. Yeah, no, this movie wasn't very good, and it doesn't bode well for the movies to come. It took Daily Wire a little over a year to come out with their next movie, so let's hope they took their time to make something good.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up.
Well, I'll give them this. This was definitely a step up. Shut-In was Daily Wire's first original film, initially streamed in a live premiere on YouTube February 10th, 2022, before being put on Daily Wire Plus. The movie was primarily marketed as the movie that uncancelled infamous actor-director Vincent Gallo. I'm not 100% sure Gallo was actually cancelled, as his last movie before this was in 2013, long before this cancelling a conservatives thing in Hollywood was in full swing. Regardless, this was a big deal. The return of an auteur filmmaker known for directing and starring in indie darling Buffalo 66, starring in Francis Ford Coppola's Tetro, and selling his own semen for $1 million. I'm not kidding. The dude sells his own seed on his own website. Well, to anyone who isn't of a darker complexion, as, quote, though a fan of Franco Harris, Derek Jeter, Lenny Kravitz, and Lena Horne, Mr. Gallo does not want to be part of that type of integration. Now, if you're a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German lady, you get $50,000 off. And for the Jewish ladies out there, he has extra incentive to sell to you as, quote, with the slim chance that his child moved into the profession of motion picture acting or became a musical performer, this connection to the Jewish faith would guarantee his offspring with a better chance at good reviews and maybe even a prize at the Sundance Film Festival or an Oscar. This is hilarious. I love this so much. Anyway, while Run, Hide, Fight was a movie directed by a nobody starring with the exception of Thomas Jane, at the time unknown actors, Shut-In had a few other interesting people working on it. It was directed by DJ Caruso, who has worked on some higher profile films like Disturbia, Eagle Eye, I Am Number 4, and XXX, The Return of Xander Cage. I mean, I didn't say they were winners, they're just, higher profile. It also stars Rainey Qualley, sister of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's Margaret Qualley. She won't be the last celebrity relative we see in this video. Rainey's character Jessica is actually a solid lead to follow here. She's a single mother and recovering drug addict who's locked in her pantry by her druggie ex and his child predator supplier. Jessica grapples with her past and her role as a mother as she fights to save her kids. Through her time in the pantry, she learns to put the past behind her and focus on fostering the good parts of her life. All this is conveyed in a fairly blatant and obvious Apple allegory. Now, despite that solid inner struggle, she does fall victim to stupidity. The primary act of stupidity is right after she's locked in the pantry. Her ex barricades the door with 2x4s, and then he and his buddy piss off for no discernible reason. I thought they were here for the kids, so why not take them? Jessica was able to bust through their bedroom door later, so I'm sure 2 full-grown adult men could do that with ease. Anyway, Jessica's daughter is able to sneak her a screwdriver that she uses to start tearing a hole in the floor to escape through the crawl space. One problem though, she's using that brick as a hammer for the screwdriver, but why not use that brick on the nails poking through the hole in the wall that are holding up the 2x4s? I mean, sure, the pantry door is also shown to lock people in without any outside help, but in a desperate situation, you could use the brick to destroy the doorknob to finick the door open. Even if that doesn't work, you'd think that'd be the first thing a desperate mother would try to do in this situation. But once I get over that hump, the rest of Jessica's time in the pantry it's fine. Vincent Gallo comes back and she somehow nails his hand to the floor, trapping him. The way she tricks him is... it's freaking stupid. No one's gonna fall for the whole, oh, I'm too hurt to casually slide something under the door, just stick your hand under instead bit. Come on, dude, that's obviously a trap. Use your brain. He presumably dies when Jessica sets his arm on fire, but she never actually checks his pulse once she gets out of the pantry, proceeding to leave her kids inside with the kitty diddler to get some effing animal crackers that she dropped earlier. Look, kids, just stay inside with the potentially maybe dead, maybe alive kitty diddler. I'm gonna go get you some animal crackers. That's the risk a mother's willing to take. Fortunately for her, though, her ex conveniently shows up right at this exact time with a gun to shoot and kill Vincent Gallo and save the day. However, he's still a crazed junkie, so we get a climax where Jessica pushes the guy out a window. Vincent Gallo is far and away the best part of this movie. The other actors do a fine job, but Gallo just acts circles around these people. He holds a very captivating screen presence, so his absence is felt in any scenes he's not in. There's also a strange fixation on lingering shots of the Bible and the crucifix with no real point to them. I mean, yeah, Jessica finds her grandma's secret stash in the $1 Million Bible, but then she starts reading verses out loud and starts weeping like, what is this, a PureFlix movie? This religious imagery doesn't really serve to help Jessica in her internal struggle of motherhood, so all these shots just feel super excessive. Ironically, this also conflicts with the movie's fixation on trying to be needlessly edgy, whether that's the gore or the fixation on constantly saying swear words. I mean, we get a wholesome scene of a mom and daughter picking apples, and then, oh no, she said,
fuck.
That's a bad word, Mom. Jessica's mad, so she's gonna call her ex in.
Asshole! Asshole!
I mean, every time she swears, it sounds so forced and it's so awkward, holy crap. So yeah, this is a slight step up from Run, Hide, Fight, as the emotional journey at the core of this movie is a lot more compelling and fleshed out, with a great performance from Siemens salesman Vincent Gallo, but dang if the story is not a befuddling mess. Well, at least in the rest of 2022, Daily Wire released 5 more movies, so let's hope one of those is good.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up and...
The Hyperions is a superhero comedy that Daily Wire acquired the distribution rights for, premiering it on YouTube and then putting it on Daily Wire Plus on March 10th, 2022. I actually managed to catch the YouTube premiere, and I gauged the comments as the movie went along. The responses were mixed, to say the least. The movie follows a broken-up superhero family headed by a doctor played by Carrie Elwes, where 2 former members decide to rob a museum to take back the badges that gave them their powers. What frustrates me the most about the Hyperions is that there's a lot of potential here. I mean, we've seen similar concepts before. The Incredibles did the superhero family with the 50s, 60s aesthetic, and superhero teams like the X-Men, Doom Patrol, and the Umbrella Academy have done the dysfunctional superhero family with a patriarch of dubious morality. That is to say, there's precedent for this kind of thing to work, but this movie doesn't really land the plane in its execution. To start with some of the positives, I have to commend writer-director John McDonald on a lot of the work he put into this movie's creation. Not only did he write and direct this, but he also raised the production funds himself, hand-painted all the paintings on set, designed and built many of the props, and he personally animated the animated portions. This movie's very much his, and the animated segments, the props, and the sets look really good. His directing is okay. There's a few creative decisions that work pretty well, though sometimes it feels as though he's trying too hard to emulate either Edgar Wright or Wes Anderson. And then there's the writing. This is an action comedy where I didn't laugh once. I exhaled through my nostrils at a medium speed like once, and said, that's a funny idea a few times. There were a lot of good ideas for humor here. A pair of superheroes robbing a museum at gunpoint with their hostages being fans and thus incredibly helpful is a funny idea. A security guard with robbery experience giving them tips of the trade is also a funny idea. The issue is that the execution just feels more awkwardly paced than anything. The story itself also has a lot of potential. A professor in the 50s creates these badges that unlock specific superpowers and recruits 2 orphan kids and a college-aged lady to join his superhero family, but his poor parenting drove away the 2 kids over time, causing him to start recruiting a second and a third class of children to join his team. Now his former proteges are back to steal the badges they used to have. We get more information of this dysfunctional found family through flashbacks that happen periodically throughout the movie, shedding light on Vista's combative relationship with Ruckus, Ansel's naivete as the baby of the group, and the various technology that Ruckus has created. Carrie always seems to be having fun as the Professor X, and Chief-esque Dr. Ruckus Mandelbaum, and his messy relationship with Vista is properly fleshed out, making for the emotional core of this movie. Vista is a former superhero who abandoned the life after going through her rebellious teenage years, only to come back after her daughter is kidnapped by an obvious twist antagonist. Her journey of reconciliation with Ruckus is pretty well done, and their final scene together is a standout. It uses her powers of telepathy, effectively allowing Ruckus to wordlessly tell her how much he loves her. This lets the performances of the actors portray the emotion of the scene, and their performances here are great. I just wish the editing wasn't super choppy and distracting. Personally, I would have preferred no secret antagonist, with Vista and Ansel just being incompetent robbers desperately trying to reclaim the powers that were suddenly stripped away from them by their father, especially since the antagonist Ares kinda sucks. He was also a former member of the Hyperions who was burned by Ruckus, so he fits that aspect of familial conflict, however he just acts incompetently. He sends 2 of his fellow former family members to steal the super badges in order not to arouse suspicion towards himself, but then he also has a squad of goons on standby to do the job for him. He comes in with them and immediately unmasks himself so that all the museum hostages can now immediately identify him, so much for that. This also happens after Ruckus came to the museum, had a fight with Vista, and left. The way that fight went down, it seems pretty clear that Ruckus has no intention on coming back, much less bringing the badges he's hidden in his office back. Yet Ares resolves to just sit there pointing guns at people, relying on the off chance that Ruckus has a change of heart and decides to come back, I guess. Lucky him, that's exactly what happens. He doesn't notice this extremely obvious attempt Ruckus makes to give Vista her badge, which allows Vista to take over his mind. So under her control, Ares points a gun at his armed goons, which allows Vista to escape, except, no wait, the other goons should be shooting her right now, but they politely wait for the teleporting girl to get there so they can have a proper fight, I guess. Ares gets shot and Vista kills him in the bathroom. There you go. He sucks. The other characters, though, are quite solid. While mostly played as a joke for the first bit of the movie, Ansel is built up to be this guy who is stuck in his childhood. He was like 8 or 9 years old when this man gave him superpowers, and then they were suddenly taken away, leaving him an aimless 20-something. Not to mention he grew incredibly close to his adopted sister Vista, but when she left the family, he was forbidden from seeing her. This highly regulated life of a kid superhero kind of messed him up, and he's probably my favorite character in the movie. Maya is a teleporting older woman who serves as the older sister of the Hyperions, the only member to stick around for each iteration of the team. In this administrative role, she doesn't get much in the way of in-depth character character building, we get a couple scenes here and there, but her character is by far the least defined out of the group. She does get a fun action scene at the beginning that uses her powers well, though. Oh, and for you Cobra Kai fans out there, Tanner Buchanan is in a couple scenes as the new recruit of the Hyperions. One last point, as someone who's worked as a grip on a couple short films, I hate the lighting of this movie. Everything is bathed in the white light with little to no shadows, especially in the museum scenes. It also doesn't help that it seems like the camera's aperture is just completely open, making all of these shots look way too overexposed. But look, The Hyperions is a fine movie. What makes it the most frustrating thing for me is that it clearly had potential, yet it faltered in all that it wanted to do. However, and this might be the only time I say this in this video, I think John McDonald has a bright future ahead of him and I eagerly await his next project. If he works on his writing a bit or directs someone else's script, he has the potential to make something truly special.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up.
Boy, I'm gonna step on some toes with this one. What is a Woman was Daily Wire's first feature-length documentary. It follows one of Daily Wire's talking heads, Matt Walsh, as he travels around the world to answer the question, what is a woman? You know, as the title implies. It was strategically placed on Daily Wire Plus on June 1st, 2022 to coincide with the beginning of Pride Month. Now, this is probably Daily Wire's most popular movie, primarily due to the controversial topic the doc covers. In the documentary, Matt Walsh seeks to challenge the modern gender theory that is being taught to students across the country, so one's enjoyment of this is mostly gonna come down to whether or not you agree with the message of the film or not. Personally, I don't think Matt really said anything that outlandish, but I don't think he explored this subject to its fullest extent. The premise of traveling the globe in order to answer the question, what is a woman, is a good subject that could fully explore femininity and its role within society, but Matt doesn't really commit to this idea. He takes many detours from this central idea in order to talk about more topical issues that feel like a segment right out of his show, rather than a natural path for the documentary to go down. For example, Matt will pause his interviews to talk about the men and women's sports debate that's been going on for like 2 years, or he'll be interviewing a talking head, she'll mention the origins of gender theory, and he'll interrupt her in post to fully explain the origin before getting back to what the documentary is really about. Toward the end, the doc goes on a tangent that showcases all of Matt's big political antics from the year leading up to the doc, his appearance at the Loudoun County School Council, his book Johnny the Walrus, and his debate on Dr. Phil. If you're familiar with Matt Walsh, which I assume you are if you're watching this, then you already know about these events, and they don't really add anything to the documentary as a whole. It feels a bit self-aggrandizing, and it retroactively paints these events as cheap stunts for the doc rather than legitimate activism. But that could also be my bias against Matt Walsh speaking, so, take that with a pinch of salt. However, Matt's interviews trying to figure out what a woman is are the highlight of the documentary. I've read that there may have been some sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes, which I can't really speak to, but as they are presented, there are a lot of great comedic moments throughout these interviews. I wish the documentary could have leaned more into this. Matt traveling around seeking to answer the question, what is a woman, and using these comedic interviews with left and right-wing professionals, people on the streets, different cultures across the world, etc. to fuel a deeper dive into what womanhood is, the value of femininity, and a woman's role in today's world. What would have been a great addition is allowing these various points of view to speak for themselves and ending on a note that allows the audience to decide for themselves. Instead, the doc ends with Matt going back home to his wife at Jordan Peterson's very aggressive suggestion and asking his wife the titular question. And here's her answer.
An adult human female.
Well, that was kind of anticlimactic. Like, yes, I guess that's the denotative meaning of the word woman, but I was kind of wanting something a little more meaningful. Instead, we get this awkwardly staged Shapirian answer that is more focused on a smug dunk on gender theory folks, rather than something that could more meaningfully explain Matt's stance on the gender debate, or really just something that more reasonably changes people's minds. Plus, this doesn't really stop someone from identifying as an adult human female, so really we're left at the same place we started, aren't we? I mean, it is entertaining, yes, and I enjoyed my time watching the documentary, but dang, I couldn't help thinking that this could have been so much better if it wasn't a talking head who was at the face of it. I would love to see a normal person do a similar doc, and I think it could turn out better. But as it is, What is a Woman is a doc that seems to be torn between a humorous set of interviews that explore the different views on womanhood and an argument against modern transgender ideology mixed with a hefty dose of Ben Shapiro-like smugness.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up and...
Terror on the Prairie probably had the greatest amount of hype behind it leading to its release of all the Daily Wire movies. This was largely due to the marketing campaign focusing on the uncancellation of the star and producer Gina Carano, who had been fired from the set of The Mandalorian in February 2021 after reposting some honestly mild takes on her Instagram. She was trying to preach unity, but because she mentioned the Jews in Germany circa the 1940s, Disney deemed it unacceptable, even though star Pedro Pascal would basically do the same thing shortly after comparing slave camps in Germany to the illegal immigrant detention buildings. If I remember right, this picture isn't even from the American-Mexican border during the Trump administration, so he was just spreading blatant falsehoods here. But hey, corporate hypocrisy with Disney isn't new, but in this instance, Daily Wire immediately swooped in to hire the ex-martial artist for a movie. She would gather large swaths of support leading up to this film's release, with pretty large counterculture figures promoting this movie. However, once this movie came out on Daily Wire Plus on June 14th, 2022, any chatter around this movie kinda stopped after about a week. And unfortunately, I can see why. Terror on the Prairie follows a mother as she tries to defend her children from a group of Confederate soldiers looking for her husband. Besides Gina, we have some other notable names working on this project. We got mixed martial artist Donald Cowboy Cerrone, Instagram comedian Tyler Fisher, and Gabriel Kane Day-Lewis, yes, son of legendary Daniel Day-Lewis, in his first English-speaking role. However, the most famous name attached to this project is Nick Searcy, famous for his roles in Justified and two 2017 Oscar-nominated films, Shape of Water and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And he is by far the best part of this movie. His character is out for revenge for the brutal death of his daughter during the Civil War, something that Gina's husband was involved in. Every action he takes is a tactical one, careful not to overstep his hand, but as more is revealed about him and the further this standoff implodes, the more his cool-headed demeanor falls apart. His henchmen are just a standard array of greaseball outlaws. Day-Lewis gets a little development in one scene, but it's immediately forgotten about later. On the opposing side, Gina Carano's character is fine. The first 30 minutes we spend with her is a nice way of highlighting how difficult and bleak life on the prairie was, but also establishing her abilities as a survivor. However, as the movie goes forward, she just kind of becomes the standard Gina Carano action character. I definitely empathize with wanting to defend your kids at all costs, but her character was just kind of bland. It definitely doesn't help that Gina's acting isn't really the greatest. She's great for roles like Angel Dust and Deadpool, where she gets to be the cool action lady, but she isn't cut out for an emotionally tolling role like this. Granted, this could also be a problem with the directing. I suspected that the director of a movie called Hotbot isn't really the best at pulling emotion from actors. Yes, this guy directed a raunchy comedy direct-to-DVD looking movie called Hotbot. A couple of things that made this viewing frustrating were some of the stupid decisions that the characters make and the insane plot armor some of the characters have. For the former, allow me to point out this scene that highlights the stupid decision making of the characters. So first, Gina tries to call her neighbor over to help her by sending him smoke signals. I don't know how smoke would have indicated trouble more than a barrage of gunfire coming from her property would, but hey, maybe they get into frequent gunfights or something. I mean, the dude must have lived close by because he got there in like 5 minutes. So he would have had to hear the gunshots. Anyway, this guy rolls up on his neighbors that he clearly knows well, as Gina later reveals she knows that he has 5 kids, so it's a little confusing that when he sees 4 armed men he clearly doesn't know standing outside the house, he doesn't immediately try to shoot them or hoof it away to get help. Instead, he rolls up to offer help, and Gina immediately tells him that these guys are bad news. Woman, you just screwed your neighbor over! These guys aren't just gonna let him leave, they're obviously gonna shoot him. Oh, wait, they just watch him leave until Preacher Man Nick Cersei says he wants the guy alive. Well, sir, you're lucky your goons didn't immediately shoot the guy once he started running off, as any normal person would have. Once they inevitably catch him, Preacher Man holds him at knife point, threatening to cut his throat unless Gina comes out. I get why Gina doesn't just shoot them right now, as she currently has a shotgun and those things aren't really known for their pinpoint accuracy. Since Gina doesn't come out, Preacher Man cuts the neighbor's throat. Good job, Gina, you got your neighbor killed. Wait, Gina, those guys are completely out in the open now. Shoot them! Shoot them! You could probably kill at least one of them. Just shoot them right now. They're literally out in the open. Just shoot them! Just shoot them, Gina! Pull the trigger! Pull the trigger right now! Pull the trigger right... Oh. We just cut to later in the day. I guess Gina just, I don't know, walked away and went to bed. She could have ended this movie right now. They were right there. Yeah, that leads us to the next problem I have with this movie. There are too many times where a character should have died. Oh man, dude just got shot in the head. Holy crap. Oh no, wait, he's up and at him. So what exactly happened just then? Cause we saw him clearly jerk back because something hit him in the face. Oh man, Tyler Fisher just got shot point blank. Oh man, I can't believe they killed him off so early in the movie. Oh no, wait, he's still alive somehow. Oh man, Cowboy's about to ambush these guys. There we go, yes. Okay, this guy's definitely dead now. Oh no, wait, he just let the guy go. Okay, and now he's pulled a gun on you. Good going, guy. Like, what was your plan there? Just tackle one of them and immediately let them go? At least shoot that guy. I mean, no one has any time to draw their weapons there. Like, come on, dude. Oh, shoot, I guess Cowboy's dead. Shoot him, 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 and now you're dead. What a great way for our antagonist to go out. So yeah, this movie had the potential to be a great Western thriller that explores post-Civil War tensions and the harsh frontier lifestyle, but this was done by a cast and crew that are more fitting of a fun action comedy in the Wild West, creating a generic and forgettable movie that doesn't live up to its potential. But hey, I guess I don't expect any less from the director of Hotbot.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up and...
2 years after the crap show that was the George Floyd riots, or the Summer of Love, Candace Owens decided to release a documentary on these events on October 12th, 2022. The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, George Floyd and the Rise of BLM, was directly released on Daily Wire Plus, making it the company's second original documentary feature. The three main points of this doc was to explore George Floyd as a person, BLM as a fraudulent organization, and the effects of media misinformation on the BLM riots. On the first point, it was good form for Candace to take a sympathetic look at Floyd's personal life, and our interview with his former roommates helps paint a sympathetic picture of the man so that we can get a full picture of his life at the time of his death. I also appreciate the same look at Derek Chauvin. It serves as a reminder that a lot of the time the people involved in these highly controversial incidents that tend to get blown out on a national level are just people at the end of the day. Unfortunately, Candace just skims over the actual incident and the subsequent trial, topics that could have easily been their own documentary. The second big idea of the doc is that BLM is a scam of an organization. Now first, I think most people were aware of that by the time this documentary released. Also, it takes Candace like 55 minutes to get to this. After the initial looks at Derek and George's lives, the documentary meanders around from random points, all of which could have been and probably should have been explored more in depth. As it's presented in The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, it's just a greatest hits compilation of things that most people are already aware of. I was honestly about ready to check out until we finally got to that 55-minute mark. The information Candace presents there on the allocation of funds for the BLM organization was very informative, though I can't help but think that a lot of this was pointless. I mean, I wasn't planning on donating to BLM, nor were the subscribers to Daily Wire Plus, I'd imagine, which I'm totally one of. I definitely watched it on Daily Wire Plus. I did not sail the high seas to watch this movie. Anyway, if they wanted this to have a larger impact, you'd think Daily Wire would put this out on VOD or DVD or Blu-ray or something like that. Oh well. The third point Candace seems to want to drive home is how the media manipulated the emotions of angry people, but honestly, this is only really brought up in the introduction and conclusion and not exactly explored in the main body of the documentary. As it stands, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold was just an incredibly unfocused and meandering documentary that really serves as confirmation bias to Daily Wire's subscriber base. Plus, BLM hasn't really been relevant since the summer of 2021, so this doc just kind of feels a little dated and pointless. I don't know, it was just an empty experience for me where like 90% of this stuff I already knew and the other 10% would have been useful to know back in 2021 and not the fall of 2022. The most interesting thing about this doc was that Ye attended the premiere. That's all. It was an empty experience that really could have been better if they honed in on one specific topic that they covered and developed that in depth instead of just hitting on the broad points of everything that happened within the scope of May 2020 to the end of August 2020. Let's just get to the last movie and finish this video.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass P-word. Give me everything you've got for this wet-ass P-word. Beat it up and...
Well, this was such a nothing burger. My Dinner with Trump is a documentary that follows, well, a dinner with Trump. It premiered on Daily Wire on November 3rd, 2022, my birthday. What a wonderful birthday present. Look, I'm gonna be honest, I don't care about this movie, and it seems like no one else did either. It's currently got 64 ratings on IMDb, and only 11 people on Letterboxd have seen it. There's not even any clips other than the trailer available for me to pull footage from. Well, you know, that doesn't mean it's bad though, so maybe it's an underground classic that shows Trump in this new casual light that can maybe endear him to some of his detractors. No. This left such a tiny impression on me that I'm not even going to talk about it. Instead, I'm going to let a guest talk about it while I worry about things I actually care about. Take it away, Mr. Trump.
Thanks, Spidgey. It's your boy Donald J. Trump, and I'm here to talk about my dinner with me. To be frank, this dinner was straight up fake. This documentary was predicated on it being a look at me that the public hasn't gotten to see. But come on, this was the most stilted conversation I've been a part of. I'll tell you this, a normal dinner at the Trump household is much more exciting than this. All this was a giant circle jerk where these guys fight to praise me at every opportunity. I don't even talk to half these guys anymore. They're all fake and gay. Wait, can I say that on your channel?
Look, I don't care. Just stop bothering me. I'm watching Game of Thrones right now.
Oh, dude, that show's really good. Wait, I have to talk about this wet fart of a documentary, and you get to watch one of the goated shows of all time?
Well, you know, I just started season 5, so...
Oh, never mind, I'll stick with this. I don't even see how my biggest fan could like this. I don't even get to have any fun here. I can be goofy and fun when I want to be, but here I'm forced to be low-energy Don. No one likes low-energy Don. This was just a political strategy meeting disguised as a casual dinner where everyone repeats the same talking points you could hear on Fox News or some other boomer rhino news network. There was another more controversial dinner I attended shortly after this came out, and that was dinner you could have made a fun movie about. Unfortunately, we're stuck with this bland arrangement of Muppets that do and say nothing of substance. Such a bland and empty experience, and I can't believe this is where this video is leaving off.
So is Daily Wire making good movies? Not really. After watching all of their movies, I've determined that the company seems to be content with churning out and acquiring movies that barely do anything with their promising premises. These movies almost never surpass mediocrity. Personally, the one I'd recommend checking out is What is a Woman, but only if you're of a particular political persuasion. Don't get me wrong though, I still support what Daily Wire is doing. We need more companies out there with a large financial backing that will compete adequately with the mainstream Hollywood machine to encourage competition, but right now Daily Wire isn't doing much to do that. First, they actually need to make their movies available to the public without forcing them to subscribe to their political streaming service to watch it, and then second, they need to actually make their movies, good. The only promising talent they have right now is John McDonald, and they only acquired his movie, so there's a chance he won't even work for them. They also seem to have access to some legitimate talent like Daniel Day-Lewis's son, Gina Carano, Vincent Gallo, etc., etc. We'll see if they improve, but as of the date of this video's release, they haven't released a new movie for 5 months, with none on their release schedule for the rest of 2023. However, they have recently acquired the filmmaking rights to Atlas Shrugged and the Pendragon cycle, so perhaps we could get something great from them in the future. If they release more movies this year or even in the following years, I'll make a follow-up video, but for right now, I'm going to seek out better films and forget I've even seen these. Trump, thanks for your contribution to this video. I'll let you rank these movies and we can get out of here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Spidgey. Okay, folks, in last place we have My Dinner with Me. Then it goes Run, Hide, Fight, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, and Terror on the Prairie. Our top 3 are Shut In, The Hyperions, and in first place, What Is a Woman? Thanks for watching, folks.
Yes, thank you for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch my video of all the videos on YouTube. Let me know what you think about Daily Wire's movies down in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. You folks are the best. I hope you have a great day and an even better night. I'll see you next time.